Hello and welcome to the ABC podcast. This is episode 18. My name is Alex and I am joined by Brandon, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I owe you one for that joke because
of my Pokemon Go name.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is episode 18, which means our podcast is now legal to vote. So,
or they can legally
buy lottery tickets.
Yeah.
I know that's what you were going to say.
Just wait till we get to 21.
Oh,
we should make a celebration out of that one.
Turn up.
We should actually make a celebration out of that.
We can do like a drinking game.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll figure something out. Anyway, so we are all by ourselves this week, no guests. So for better or for worse.
Did Robin like being on the podcast?
Yeah, she did.
She did?
Yeah.
Even though she didn't know half the things we were talking about.
Well, I mean, it was bound to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've got a regular show this week. No subscription box, unfortunately. I got the email that my Star Wars box is on the way, but it's not here quite yet.
It's the Java one, right?
Yep. Jabba's Palace.
So
you can look forward to that next week, probably. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with our ABCs of Geekdom segment. This week is the letter F, and it's my turn to choose. And I have chosen the Fire Nation.
Ah, good one.
Because everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. So the Fire Nation is one of the four factions, I mean, they're not all nations, but they're one of the four elements in the Avatar universe. In the original show, which is the only one anyone should care about, they are the main antagonists of the series. And so, well, no, I won't spoil anything for you since you haven't watched it. Anyway, so we've talked a lot about Avatar in the show. Brandon and I have both professed our loyalty to the Fire Nation over the other three. But in case you don't know, in the Avatar universe, there are four types of benders: air, water, earth, and fire. And yeah, fire is really powerful. They are very passionate people. They can also create lightning, which is pretty rad.
Mm-hmm.
They also have the most advanced technology because they can forge steel.
Yeah, I did notice that when I was looking some things up on the wiki.
Yeah.
No spoilers, but I noticed they had tanks and they also had a giant drill.
Yeah, yeah. Then I guess we can talk about Korra later on when the four nations become unified, I guess. Fire Nation shares their technology and the firebenders, help everyone get more advanced technology, so.
That's so sweet of them, considering how they almost destroyed the world.
Yeah, basically. But it was just a couple bad people.
I know, right?
So, yeah, I don't really have much to say about the Fire Nation other than that they're cool. For the most part, they're very silent protagonists, but most of them are competent. Like, a lot of their soldiers, they get defeated because the good guys have to win in the end. But, for the most part, a lot of them put up a really challenge. So that's always refreshing to see, as opposed to, your faceless stormtrooper who can't hit anything worth beans, but.
Or those, or the minions in Power Rangers.
Oh, yeah.
How, every season of Power Rangers, they have those minions that each Power Ranger can take out about 20 of them.
Is it bad that the first thing I thought of when you said minions was minions?
No. See, I actually like the minions, though.
I don't have anything against the minions, but I mean, obviously I'm not a child, so I don't have that same fascination with them as other kids do. But I mean, I don't have any problem with them. Well, I didn't. Now they're kind of annoying just because they're everywhere and people are obsessed with them. Well, it's kind of died down a lot since the fever pitch. Mm-hmm. I only saw the first Despicable Me. I never saw any of the other ones.
I like the second one. The second one's pretty good.
Steve Carell's still in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, that's it for the Fire Nation.
Man, imagine the minions of Fire Nation, soldiers.
Ooh, that would be...
They're evil over that, and that just causes the fire to come out.
That would be weird. So who's your favorite firebender?
Who's my favorite firebender? From what I've seen, probably Eero.
Yeah.
Eero's the way to go.
He's pretty rad.
He's funny, but he's extremely powerful, too.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to have a cup of tea or a meal with him. I feel like he would just be a really, really cool person to hang out with.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to our correction segment. So first thing, last week we opened the DC Legion of Collectors Suicide Squad Funko subscription box. And we were talking about the patch that came with it, with Katana's face on it, and there was some Japanese writing on there. I scoured the internet, by which I mean I did a Google search and I didn't find anything. I couldn't find any translation. So either people are not interested, or no one, or it's like made up words or something. I don't know, but I don't have an answer for what the patch says. So if you're out there and you read Japanese, do some research for me and let me know. Susie, I don't know how fluent you are with your Japanese, but you know more than I do, so maybe you can help us out. So second thing, more Suicide Squad. So the Argus guy, the one who's leading the Suicide Squad in the movie, his name is Rick Flag. He is an established DC Comics character. There's actually 3 Rick Flags. It's a father, son, and grandson.
So they just feels in it, like the need to call everybody Rick Flag?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, but something interesting I found out was that on episode 16, when we were doing the Green Lantern casting discussion, we were talking about Tom Hardy for, I think, the role of Hal Jordan. And Eugene mentioned that he was interested in playing Captain Boomerang in the Suicide Squad film. But actually, according to Wikipedia, that's not correct. He was interested in playing Rick Flag. But due to scheduling conflicts with The Revenant, not Mad Max, he was unable to do both roles and he had to drop. So, another couple interesting things I found out was that, at least in the plot summaries that I read for Suicide Squad while I was doing this research, there's no mention of Argus, which is weird, because Amanda Waller's in the movie, like that's not a secret or anything, and she's always been the leader of Argus. Well, I think in a couple, she gets promoted to like Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense or something like that at some point in the comics, but for the most part, she works for Argus. So I'm interested to see how that plays out, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I just think that would be a good introduction for Argus, and they could do something more with that. But
I'm sure they'll mention it. Maybe not in big detail, but I'm sure they'll be referenced in the movie.
Yeah. And then the other thing I found out is that they're not calling Captain Boomerang. They're just calling him Boomerang, which is weird. My first thought was that in Guardians of the Galaxy, he's called Rocket, not Rocket Raccoon. And I don't know the reason for that. Do you?
I don't know. It's a good question. I know sometimes with some characters, the director or the writers feel the need that they should just reference them by a shortened name, not by the full name. Like, I forgot who it was. I want to say it was not Jeff Johns, but it was some DC executive. And when they were talking about a possibility for a Martian Manhunter movie, he didn't want to call the Martian Manhunter. He just wanted to call him Manhunter, which is completely...
Yeah, that's weird.
That's a whole different character unit. And he said, because if you call him Martian Manhunter, that's goofy. Nobody's going to take him seriously. Which...
Yeah, that's
not true.
That's
but
not true.
That's just the opinion of some creators, how they feel about it. I don't agree with it. The decision with Rocket Raccoon, just calling him Rocket, I was okay with that because everybody knew he was a raccoon. And
well, except for him, which is, I think, might be why they didn't call him Rocket Raccoon, because there's that one line, he's like, "What's a raccoon?"
Yeah.
But
at least in the promotions, they acknowledged him as Rocket Raccoon.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I can look into it for next week. But anyway, so I don't know if it's some weird situation like that where they're not calling him Captain Boomerang and just Boomerang.
Maybe. Because in the show...
in Arrow, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cisco, he's the one, he just calls him...
Yeah.
He's the one who names him Captain Boomerang. Yeah. Nobody else names him Captain Boomerang.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's from the comics. And they call him Boomerang. But
so maybe that's what they're going with it. Maybe
like,
nobody on the squad wants to call him Captain.
Because someone else is the captain now?
Yeah. I mean, if they call him Captain, it's going to be like, in the Avengers, whenever they say, "Hey, Cap," or "Captain." I don't know, just weird parallelism.
All right, whatever. All right, so moving on. So last week, after the Suicide Squad box, I had my mystery package, which turned out to be the custom Luigi amiibo. And I scanned it into both Super Smash Brothers for Wii U and Mario Kart 8, and neither one, it didn't interact with either one. A little error message popped up and said, this amiibo is not compatible with this game. So I'm super confused what chip is in that base, because, you know, if there's no chip, it just wouldn't react to anything. But what chip? I don't know. I'm just confused, but I don't want to, like, I feel like it's too much effort to bother the lady who made it to ask her what base she used, because it's not that important. But yeah, I guess it's just a mystery. Then the next thing is, we were talking about the Drogon Pop Vinyl. It costs $18.50 if you buy it from Hot Topic, but it is currently out of stock on their website.
No!
That doesn't mean they don't have it in store, but can't just buy it off of the internet.
But it's so easy to buy it off the internet.
That is true. That is true.
Now I actually have to go to Hot Topic.
Oh no.
My life is so hard.
There's one in the Galleria. That's not that far away. You could take the bus down there. I heard there's a bunch of Pokestops in the Galleria.
I was gonna say, I could just walk to the gallery and just, get all my eggs.
Yeah, rack up them footsteps.
I know, right?
It's too hot for that, though.
I walked like 6 miles in the past 2 days.
Dang. Okay, well, we'll save the Pokemon Go talk for later, because we got more to talk about. So, speaking of Game of Thrones, Viserys, we were talking about, because he is the brother of the Mother of Dragons, so that makes him the uncle of dragons.
It just doesn't have the same ring to it.
No, not really, but I mean, it doesn't matter because he's dead. Spoiler alert. I don't know why I say spoiler alert after I say the spoiler.
After you say it,
It doesn't make any sense. Whatever.
I know that's like a recurring theme in our podcast.
Well, we've got lots of those.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Viserys, brother of Daenerys, we were talking about him because we were talking about the episode of the Pokemon anime where the Togepi egg gets stolen and it hatches and bonds with Misty. So in the episode, there is an episode where Viserys steals one of Daenerys' eggs, but he does so because it's valuable, not because he knows that it will hatch into a dragon or he thinks it'll hatch into a dragon. He just wants it so he can sell it and then buy an army, because Drogo is more loyal to Daenerys than him, which is only reasonable because she is his wife. Although he did pledge his fealty to Viserys, but
nobody really liked him.
Yeah, no, I really, really, really didn't like Viserys when he was on, but at the same time, I feel like I think I hated him more than I hated Joffrey.
Really?
I think so. Like, Granted, I had a longer time to grow into not liking Joffrey, but still, I don't know. Viserys he was a messed up dude. Anyway, so speaking of Pokemon, we were talking about non-volatile status conditions, and I forgot to mention one last week. So there are a total of 5 non-volatile status conditions: burn, poison, paralysis, sleep, and the one that I forgot was freeze.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So next thing, we have more Avatar talk, actually. So we were talking about my favorite scene from Avatar, about the prison riot. So
I was listening back to our past episode, and I still laughed at that part.
So I actually got a few of the details wrong from that scene. So the prison break episode is a 2-parter. So in the first part, they try to do a breakout, and oh, by the way, this is going to be Avatar spoilers, not huge spoilers, but a little bit. So they try to do a breakout. So Zuko and Sokka dress up as guards for the prison, and one of the prisoners finds out that they're staging an escape, and he says that he'll help them, but they have to take him with them. So Zuko and the other prisoner, they get discovered that they are Zuko gets discovered that he is who he is, because, it's kind of hard to, after you take the mask off, it's pretty obvious who he is. And the prisoner, he finds out that he's trying to help the prisoner escape, and so they get locked up again. And so then in the second part episode, they try to escape again. And so what they're trying to do is stage the riot so that they can distract the guards, and then get on there's like a trolley thing, like a sky lift, like a thing that goes across the lake so they can escape. And so in the prison yard, Sokka's dad goes up to this one prisoner, and he doesn't punch him in the face. He actually shoves him. And the guy, he does the whole, like, oh, I've been trying to work on my anger management stuff. And so then the prisoner who's working with them before, he says what's going on, and then they tell him, oh, we're trying to start the prison riot. And he says, oh, here, I got you. And so then that's when he grabs the little dude, and he doesn't yell riot. He just holds him up and he says, hey, riot. And then everyone just flips out. But I like my version better. I think it's a little funnier. Especially when I'm so bad at telling stories. But, whatever. Moving on. So, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we were talking about Combustion Dude. And so, he's actually from the comics. I didn't know that. Actually, I didn't know that the main, quote-unquote, main character, Daisy Johnson, a.k.a., Daisy Johnson, she's also from the comics. I thought she was totally made up for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but she's not, which is interesting. Anyway, so Combustion Dude, his full name is James Taylor, and in the comic books they call him Hellfire. And I couldn't find any context for the Mr. Personality nickname. So if I wanted to find out the answer, that would require me to rewatch half of the last season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and ain't nobody got time for that.
Right.
Okay, I do, but
you don't want to.
I have other shows I need to watch. You could watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and
that is true. I did finish Futurama.
Yeah, so what's next on your plate?
I think Walking Dead. I'm actually debating between three. Walking Dead, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Game of Thrones. I've seen most of Game of Thrones, but I just want to start actually in order. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Decisions. First world problems.
Indeed.
Just sitting in front of my computer and like, no. What am I going to do now?
So next thing, in Mortal Kombat X, there's a character, well actually she was introduced before Mortal Kombat X, but in Mortal Kombat X, there's a character named Tanya. And we were talking about her because we were talking about the variations and stuff. And I was talking about her weapons that she has in her Kobujutsu variation. I call them daggers, but they're actually tonfa. Are these they're basically sticks, but on one end they have a handle, and so there's a long end of the stick and then the short end of the stick. The long end is braced against your forearm, and then the short end of the stick you hit people with while holding onto the handle. And so technically hers are tonfa. That's what they call them in the game. Now I looked at a picture of them, and they are, other than the handle, and they are bladed on all sides. So the long end is a blade, and then the other end of the handle there's a blade, and then on the short end of the staff, there's a curved handle. So I mean it's more blade than stick, but they're called tonfa, so whatever.
That does make sense, because I don't know if you remember in Hellboy, one of the villains, Cronin, he had tonfa blades. Just leave it out.
Okay, whatever. I'm just saying that in the game.
I get it.
In the game, because she moves so fast and stuff, all it looks like is you just hear those the stereotypical blade noise, like the swing, 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 and they move so fast. I always assumed they were daggers, but
it's okay, Alex. We have more important things to stress out about.
Do we though?
It's a very good question. I mean, you're the one getting married. You tell me.
Good point. Okay, so
in the middle of writing your vows, you were like, what was it about that weapon? You start breaking out a cold sweat in the middle of the night. And Robin thinks you're getting cold feet, but instead you're just really thinking about this weapon.
We don't have to write our vows, right?
Yeah, I know. But I'm just so used to, in shows and TV, they would sound about writing your vows and whatnot. Luckily for Catholics, we don't have to do that. The work is taken care for us.
Hooray. So, moving on, the Red Lantern Oath. So, last week, I recited the oath at Brandon's request, and I did the version from Green Lantern, the animated series, and I was talking about the differences between the one in the comic books and the one in the animated series. And so I actually missed one of the differences, so I'll just go ahead and recite the whole comic book oath. Or do you want to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
Can I see it? With blood and rage of crimson red, ripped from a corpse so freshly dead, together with our hellish hate, we'll burn you all, that is your fate.
Yeah, so I really don't like that version. It's
Why?
I don't the part about the corpse so freshly dead, it just weird. Like,
It's
how are
weird.
you gonna rip hate from a dead corpse? Like, that just
I don't know. I mean, you know how Atrocity is created through the lanterns, right?
yeah, I think so.
He killed like 4 people who were his former partners,
Okay.
and he ripped out their organs and whatnot.
Okay, so it's like a Horcrux.
Kind of. I didn't think about it that way. Actually, it's kind of true because, you know, in the comics, how the ring works, right? It replaces their heart. So even if you take out their heart, they can still function. But if you take away the ring, technically they die.
Oh, okay.
But I do agree with you. I do like the animated series a little bit better. Just by a little bit. I like both of them, but I do like the animated one better. Slightly.
Moving on. So this is actually from episode 15 again.
Okay.
So we were talking about Injustice,
Yeah,
the first Injustice game, and we were talking about the clash mechanic, and we kind of just talked about it and didn't really give an explanation of what it was. So in Injustice, there is a mechanic called the clash. And so in each match, every character has 2 health bars. So after you do 100% of the character's health, they go onto their second health bar. And that is when you can activate your clash. And so when a character is doing a combo on another character, you can activate the clash. And then both characters, so it'll stop the combo, which is probably the most important function of the clash. If you're familiar with Mortal Kombat, it's like the breaker mechanic in that game, or
That's a good way to put it.
or
Like combo breaker.
in Killer Instinct combo breaker, which they work slightly differently. But so back to Injustice, the clash. So there's probably most importantly, there's only one clash for each character per game, whereas in Mortal Kombat, because it works on the meter system, like you spend your meter that you can either enhance your moves or use it to do your breaker. You can get more than one breaker per match. But anyway, so in Injustice, but the combos stop, and then you're given a set amount of time to wager how much meter you want to bet on the clash. So you have a total of 4. You can have up to 4 bars of meter in the battle match. And so let's say Brandon and I are fighting. I activate my clash. I have 3 bars of meter and I wager 2 bars. Brandon has 2 bars of meter and he wagers 2 bars. So then we would have our clash, and characters have different quotes that they'll say. So some are just stock quotes that they'll say to anyone. But if the characters are facing off against specific characters, so for example, Green Lantern and Sinestro, who have a history together in the comic books, they'll have a different set of specific quotes that are kind of like funny banter.
Which is actually really, really cool.
Yeah, so for example, it actually the quotes depend on who activates the clash. Mm-hmm. So the person who activates the clash is on the defensive end, and the other person is on the offensive end. So for example, if Sinestro initiates the clash, whoever initiates the clash will always have the first quote. So if Sinestro were initiating the clash, one of his quotes is, he'll say to Hal Jordan, he'll say, "Human scum," and then it'll switch over to Green Lantern and he'll say, "Evil and racist." And then they'll do their clash. So anyway, back to the actual clash. So I wagered 2 meters, Brandon wagered 2 meters. In that case, the clash would be a tie. And so I would lose my 2 meters and I would still have 1. Brandon would no longer have any meter, and I would have ended his combo. So in that case, I would technically come out on top because, I stopped him from doing more damage to me than he would have originally. Now, if I wagered all 3 of my meter and Brandon wagered 1 of his meter, then I would gain back 15% of my health. Or in the other scenario, if I had only wagered 1 of my meters and Brandon had wagered both of his, he would have dealt 15% damage to me. So the amount of damage that is regained or dealt is dependent on the difference between how much meter is wagered between the 2 characters. So by 1 meter, it's 15%, 2 meters is 25%, 3 meters is 30%, and 4 meters is 33%. So up to a maximum up to a maximum of a third of your health. I think that was a pretty detailed explanation.
You think so? You missed out something?
I mean, we could say some more quotes. Like, for example, there's one between the Green Arrow and Solomon Grundy. Solomon Grundy's a zombie. And so Green Arrow will say to Grundy, he'll be like, Grundy, say fire bad. And then Grundy will say, fire is bad.
They're really, really funny.
Yeah.
And I think it was just so cool that the creators got the voice actors to take that time to customize each one, which is just really, really awesome.
Okay, moving on. So let's talk about The Sims. Now, I did you a favor and I didn't fall into the information hole that I was very tempted to dive into with The Sims. So I only have to make one correction here.
Okay.
This applies to the original Sims. I don't know if this applies to future games because I think I played a tiny little bit of The Sims 2, and I don't know if it was because I was older or because I, or what, but for whatever reason, The Sims 2 just didn't grab me in the same way The Sims did, and so I kind of just moved on. So now I'm left with my fond memories of The Sims from childhood. Anyway, so we're talking about military school for the children. And that is activated if the child has failing grades for 7 days in a row. So your grades will go down if they don't attend school or they don't do studies at home. So you can actually go to school or not go to school, but you can have your child character just do studies on their own. And that will keep their grades up. And so they don't have to go to school. But if you don't tell them to study, which I didn't because that's no fun, then they'll go to military school. And actually, if a child goes to military school, they will never come back. Like, you can never recover them from the game. Yeah. It's pretty dark.
I honestly don't know what to say to that.
Just be glad you didn't go to military school, I guess.
This is like Imperial Stormtrooper level.
Okay, moving on. Speaking of the military, wow, we got a lot of good segues this week. Speaking of military, Friedrich Wilhelm August Heinrich Ferdinand von Steuben.
Oh, is this from Liberty Kids?
Yeah.
Nice.
He was born in Prussia, and later he moved to the United States to help with the Continental Army, defeat the British. And he was Inspector General of the Continental Forces and a Major General. And then he helped train the army because they were, for a lot of them were farmers. They weren't, trained soldiers or anything. So he helped train them in, riflery and just military formation, tactics, that kind of thing. And towards the end of the war, he served as Washington's chief of staff. Thank you, Baron von Steuben. We owe you a great debt in this country.
And thank you, Arnold Schwarzenegger, for voicing him.
Yes. So, okay, I don't have a segue for this one. So, in the Magic School Bus, the student Arnold, who was in Miss Frizzle's class, his cousin's name was Janet.
That's right.
And in the episode we were talking about where they were shooting the stink molecules, I said they were in Janet's nose. That's not correct. So what happens is there's a contest at their school. There's this famous smelling lady. This lady who likes to smell good things. She's looking for the best smell in the world. And so she's coming to the school to take submissions or whatever. So Miss Frizzle's class makes this combination of smells, and they shrink down to microscopic levels so that Miss Frizzle can show them, the individual smell molecules and stuff. And at that point, Janet walks into the room and she smells their concoction and she thinks it smells really good, and she's afraid that they're going to beat her class. So she takes some skunk smell and mixes it in with the good smell. And so then they're like, oh no, we're going to offend the lady's name, her name is Flora Whiff. And the episode is called The Magic School Bus Makes a Stink. So anyway, so Janet adds the skunk smell. Flora Whiff comes in and she decides she's going to take a smell of the thing. And so she inhales and all the molecules come in. And so the Magic School Bus shoots down the skunk molecules before the smell molecules can bind with the smell receptors in the nose. And that's how they keep her from smelling the skunk smell. So to find all this information, I Googled the Magic School Bus nose or inside nose or something like that. And it came up. So Google is a crazy.
The power of Google, man.
It's weird. It's kind of creepy sometimes.
So much more better than Bing.
Amen. So moving on. Last week I was talking about the Hot Wheels computer game, and I actually got the name of the game wrong. It's actually called Hot Wheels Stunt Track Driver, not Stunt Track Racer. And there are 12 cars in the game, not, I think I said 16, 18, something like that. It's actually a total of 12 cars. I did get the stages right. I got named all of them. And there is a video on YouTube it's called Tournament Mode. It's a back-to-back races for all 6 stages to try and do it as fast as you can. Now, I enjoyed watching it because I have those, nostalgic memories for it. If you didn't, you probably would think it just looks like a bad racing game. Cause it's an old game, so it doesn't look great, but I enjoyed watching it. So.
No, I definitely agree. Even with some of my old games, I go back and you realize, man, this game is crap, but you have such good memories with it. It just overtakes that.
No, yeah. And then also on Brandon's childhood, he was talking about Sly Cooper, and the Sly Cooper.
Dude, I had a dream about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do tell.
Really weird. They were breaking into an old people's home. I don't know why. And I was with them, and I was like the only human. The old people were human too, but I just don't know where this dream was going. And then at one point, Sly Cooper had to get into a fight, and he was fighting an old guy with a cane. And you know how Sly Cooper has his hook thing, right? Yeah. He was fighting with that, and that's where the dream stopped. But I don't know. I woke up and I was just, what the hell just happened? And those are the type of dreams I have. He beat the old guy.
Wow, that's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a Sly Cooper movie in production, and it is, as of Thursday or Friday when I looked this up, it is still slated for a 2016 release.
Really?
But
So
no release date is given. So to me, it sounds like they're probably going to push it back to 2017. But that's the current knowledge as of now is that it's still coming out this year.
Really? I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah. I feel like because there was a Ratchet and Clank movie that came out earlier this year, and those franchises are very different, but they are both CGI animated video game franchise movies. And the Ratchet and Clank movie didn't do terribly well, so I feel like they might want to push back Sly Cooper just so it doesn't come with that baggage.
Which I was surprised about the Ratchet and Clank movie.
I wasn't really. They didn't. I didn't see too much marketing behind it.
See, I think that's maybe the problem with it because I didn't either.
Yeah.
And I love Ratchet and Clank, so that's why I was very surprised about some of the reviews.
Yeah, but I guess video game movie streak lives on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got some more childhood memories.
Okay.
So first one I have is this computer game. I got a couple more computer games. It's called Spelling Jungle. And this was a game that taught you how to spell, basically, but in this really weird, obtuse way. All I remember about it was that there was this really weird sounding narrator. You had to move your character around to collect letters and avoid like crocodiles, not fall in the water, stuff like that, because it was set in the jungle. And I never beat the game. There was this one level that I could never get past, and there was like a live system, I believe. And I couldn't beat it. And yeah, it's one of those things that still haunts me to this day that I wish I could go back and beat it.
You just wake up in the middle of the night and be like, damn it.
Actually, I got a couple more of those so I'll keep that theme going. The second one is, I don't remember the name of this game. All I remember is that it was based on, you were playing as a Viking, and it was an adventure game. I think you were trying to find a golden apple. That's all I got. I just remember that. Again, it was really frustrating, really like complicated because they didn't explain anything, because that's just kind of how games were back then. I also remember that my mom tried to help me with both of these games, and she couldn't figure it out either.
I remember actually asking my parents to help me out with games.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what to do, but they still tried. God bless their hearts. And actually, at one point, they actually helped out. I remember playing Republic Commando, and my mom found out what to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, you're so cool right now.
Anyway, so the third game that I never beat that still bothers me is one of the Clue Finders games.
Oh.
Yeah, so the Clue Finders was like kind of like Scooby-Doo without the dog. There was just like gang of kids who like went around and solved crimes, and there were different games for like different age levels. And so I don't remember what age level this one was, honestly. I guess I can look it up for next week, but it was set in this abandoned carnival. And so there were different games, like educational games. There's, you know, like math games and history games and just stuff like that. So anyway, so I beat all of that. I made it through the carnival while I was chasing the bad. So then the bad guy comes out and he retreats into this like cave thing or whatever. And so there's this chasm that you had to cross, but you had to do it by like placing down, it had something to do with numbers, and you had to place down the numbers like in a certain way to make them like get to the other end. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. And so I never beat that game. So that was depressing. So that game came on a demo disc of these weird, like old things that we had. Just the 90s were weird. Man.
I know, right?
Anyway,
I remember that demos for games, they would be on their own separate discs.
Yeah. Well, no, this one had a bunch. So,
oh, did it really?
Yeah. So I remember there was a Green Eggs and Ham game on that disc. And I don't remember anything about that other than that it was Green Eggs and Ham. But then there was another one for a game version of My Teacher is an Alien. Have you ever heard of that?
I actually have.
Okay, so My Teacher is an Alien was the first in a series of novels. I believe there were a total of 4. There was My Teacher was an Alien, My Teacher glows in the dark, My Teacher fried my brain, something about brain, and My Teacher flunked the planet. Those were the 4.
Damn.
So yeah, so anyway, so there's I don't remember too much about the books, so I can't say too much about it. But in the first book, there was this main kid, and his teacher was an alien. Go figure. And yeah, in the game, all I remember was you were trying to find evidence to prove it, and so you like went around the school doing things, playing these little mini games. And the demo was only like 30 minutes long, so you can only do so much before it just timed out on you. But yeah, I remember that.
I didn't even know they made games about that. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And then the last computer game that I'll talk about is Rita Rabbit. You ever played Rita Rabbit?
I'm trying to remember. Let me look this up real quick.
Okay. So anyway, Rita Rabbit is like a franchise, but there were multiple characters, and then some of the characters got their own games. But the main 2 Rita Rabbit games that I remember playing.
I did remember this game.
And I will fully admit that I played these games way past the intended age limit.
I did too.
Like, I'm talking like into middle school. But anyway, so Rita Rabbit first grade, they were trying to put on a play, and there was this one dude who got like cut from the play, and he was super jealous, so he like sabotaged all their sets and stuff and like their scripts and all that. And so then so the play was that night, and so you as Rita Rabbit went to the different people who were in charge of the different things, and you had to help create the sets and the art and all that stuff. So I played that game so many times. It was,
oh my god,
it was really fun. And then the second one was Rita Rabbit second grade, where you played as this lion who went to this castle because he was trying to find Rita Rabbit maybe. Anyway, but the castle was held by this dragon, and you had to get to the highest room in the tallest tower and rescue Rita Rabbit or rescue whoever. And so you did that by walking around the castle, and you had to do these different little mini games. Like there were these like kind of weird action platformy type levels. There was my least favorite one. I remember this was that you had to make up a story based on this little prompt that it gave you. And the story probably wanted to be like 100 words. But for me, when I was little, I had to it took me like an hour to come up with a story that, even though I don't think I had to make a story that made sense. I think you just had to type like 100 different words or something. But yeah, what were some other games? Like I don't. You know,
that reminds me of the games. I don't know if you ever played Jumpstart.
I don't think so.
There were these games. You guys can't see it. I'm showing it to Alex right now.
They look familiar, but
I played them in my childhood. Oh gosh, I played these way too much.
I played Freddy Fish.
I did too.
Only 1 or 2 of those games, but I think that was in middle school.
Yeah, I played those. One game, since we're on the topic of games we never finished, one game I remember specifically I didn't finish was one of the Carmen Sandiego games. I couldn't really, I didn't know where to go with his next mystery, and I just gave up. To this day, just like Alex.
So you never found her. She's still at large.
Yeah, it still haunts me. I failed in my duty.
So, yeah, Reader Rabbit. Good times.
It was. Yeah.
So then the next thing I have is just comic strips in general. I think so. I collected comic strip collection books. So some of my favorite comic strips are Foxtrot is probably my favorite. Dilbert, I love some Dilbert. Garfield's really good. Baby Blues is really funny. I think those are the only ones that I own strips of. I mean, there are other strips that I enjoy reading, like Zits is a good one. Get Fuzzy is really funny.
I actually remember that one.
If I thought about it, I could list a bunch more. But anyway, from elementary school specifically, my number one, and possibly still in contention between Foxtrot for my favorite comic strip ever, Calvin and Hobbes. Just the classic.
Yeah.
I own a ton of those books.
I do too.
Like,
not even just the small ones, like the big ones.
Yeah.
I have the big ones too. Yeah. I just remember just laughing my butt off.
Yeah.
Just reading some of them in the bookstore.
It's because Calvin had like such an amazing childhood. Like, not only did he have his imaginary friend who he like did all kinds of things with, but he had the crazy imagination with the Spaceman Spiff and Stupendous Man and all that. And I was also super jealous of where he lived because he had the giant woods in his backyard where he could go with his wagon and just like, you know, camp and whatever. But then it also snowed. Yeah. And growing up in Houston, like that was something I never got to experience. So I was super sad about that. But yeah, just Calvin and Hobbes was... We should all try to live our lives more like Calvin, for the most part. He's also really selfish and does a lot of dumb things, but...
And he's not very smart in school either.
No, he's super smart. He just doesn't apply himself.
Sometimes, like, I don't know how I do agree with that to an extent. Yeah. Not with the math section, because I remember specifically whenever his dad tried to teach him math, it didn't work out because he didn't get the concept of addition. So you'll have to look this up. But I remember he was trying to teach him math using coins.
Yeah, I remember this.
And then Calvin admits that the addition doesn't, add up because these are my coins, not your coins. Why are you giving me those coins? I think it's like 5 plus 6, and he's trying to tell him that makes 11, but Calvin kept saying 6 because those are my coins. And I remember he thinks he's gotten it down, so he makes a bet with Susie at the next quiz. And he gets stuck on the first problem. And he goes through this entire tangent of Spaceman Spiff, and he combines these two planets together, and he makes them collide. And I think it was against 6 plus 5. Yeah. And he said only 6 remains.
Yeah. Because, like, in the comic, like, so he drags 2 planets together to make them, like, smash together.
Yeah, one planet was named something 6, and the other one was named something 5. Yeah. And 5 gets obliterated by 6.
Yeah, because 6 is bigger, so I mean, that makes sense, but...
And then... the time's up, and he was only finished the first question.
Yeah, and then at the end, he's walking in the woods with Hobbes, and then he's telling him about how he lost his bet, and he's like, but I stiffed her because I gave her 3 dimes instead of a quarter. Yeah. Ooh, another one I forgot to talk about, or another Calvin Hobbes thing is his time machine. Actually, all of his boxes.
Yeah, just like his boxes, they can be anything, like a transmogrifier, a time machine.
The clone machine.
That too, yeah.
I think those were the 3. Good old Calvin and Hobbes. Anyway, okay, and then the last childhood thing that I have to talk about is Captain Underpants.
Oh, actually, yeah.
So I read all of the Captain Underpants books up until, what was the last one I read? So no, I got nothing. I read a bunch of them. There was one where the 2 kids were named Harold and nothing.
I want to say George.
Oh yeah, Harold and George. You're right. Yeah. And so there was this other kid in their class, and I don't remember his name, but he gets turned into a giant booger monster.
Oh, was it the big nerd?
Yeah, I think that might have been the last one.
I think his name was Melvin or something like that.
Why is that always your go-to name for a nerdy person?
What, Melvin? Mm-hmm. That's not true.
That's not the first time you've
I've said Melvin, but that was for Marvin the Martian.
Oh, you're right.
I was the one count Marvin as being a nerd.
I mean, no, not really.
Oh, yeah, his name is Melvin.
Oh, good job.
Yeah, thank you.
So anyway, Captain Underpants, real brief summary. There's these 2 kids named Harold and George. They're the troublemakers of their class. One of my favorite things from that book was that at the front of their school, there was a sign, and then, at the bottom it says, something like, PTA meeting at this time or whatever. Yeah. And so they would always like rearrange the letters to make it say something like dirty or funny or whatever. So they drew these comics. One of them was the illustrator and one of them was the writer. I don't remember which was which, but so they drew these Captain Underpants comics. And so in the first book, their principal is always, getting on them about being troublemakers.
Mr.
And
Crump.
so, there you go. So in the first book, they somehow hypnotized them. I want to say they like got a hypnosis thing.
Yeah, it was a hypno ring from
from like the back of a magazine or something, or like a cereal box. And so they hypnotized him into thinking he was Captain Underpants so that they could, just for fun, like they didn't think it was going to work, but then it did. And so now anytime he hears somebody snap, I think it was 2 snaps, he would get this grin on his face and he would run off and he would take off all his clothes and he would tie a cape around himself and think he was Captain Underpants. And then later on in one of the comic books, he actually gets superpowers. He had flight and super strength, and
he has a bunch of powers because he drank some superpower juice.
Yeah. And
go figure.
It's just this really weird comic, or no, it wasn't even a comic. It was almost like a graphic novel because like there were pictures on every page. Yeah, but there was a story. It was just weird. And I never finished reading it. I know there came out more books after the last one I read. There was also another spinoff called Super Diaper Baby.
Yes, it was.
I read the first one. And there were more. I never got around to.
And then there was another one that the writer made called Ricky Ricardo, this giant robot.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
He's a mouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. I remember in 4th grade I don't remember why, but there was this kid in our class. I think we were doing book reports, and I don't know if you had to dress up or what, but there was a kid in my class named Ashwin, and he dressed up as Captain Underpants. He kept his clothes on, but he just wore a pair of underwear outside of his shorts.
Nice.
So a pair of whitey tighties and wore a cape. So it was funny. Okay, let's move on. Childhood memories.
Okay.
So Star Trek, Lieutenant Sulu's his first name is Hikaru. And in the article that I read about the whole gay thing in the new movie, I misread the quote. I said that he has a family established in the series. That's not true. What in the new movie in Star Trek Beyond, they are going to introduce his husband and his daughter. That was what I was referring to. So that is it. I think that's an important thing to clarify. And then also the original Star Trek series debuted in September of 1966 and ran through June of 1969.
Wow.
Granted, I mean, there was the animated series, Next Generation, Voyager, the other ones. So, and there's going to be a new Star Trek series on Fox.
Really? I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And then next, so more Pokemon stuff. So we were talking about electric terrain, and I was talking about all Pokemon who make contact with the ground are subject to the effects of electric terrain. And then I mentioned the exceptions, and I forgot one of the exceptions, which would be Pokemon that hold the item Air Balloon, which essentially grants the same effects as Pokemon with the ability to levitate. The difference being that as soon as a Pokemon who holds the air balloon item is hit with a move, the air balloon will pop, and that they are then thrown back on the ground. So we were talking about Vikavolt and how his Japanese name was Kawaganon. So we were talking about
the Digimon.
The Kawaga
prefix.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And so, to the best of my knowledge / research, the words.
Whenever you said it, you remind me of Uncle from Jackie Chan Adventures. Whenever he would go like, "We must do research." That's like the only thing I can keep. That's the only thing I do to keep myself motivated when I have to do research for stuff. For school is just remind myself constantly mentally like, "We must do research." Anyway, sorry. Back to what you're saying.
So, Kuwagata or Kuwagatamushi are the Japanese words for stag beetle.
Okay.
So
they probably just like took that little part and attached it. Yeah.
So moving on, King's Landing is for Game of Thrones is
one of the worst places ever made.
Yeah, pretty much only bad things happen
Yeah,
there.
nothing good ever happens in King's Landing.
I'll think about that when I come back to it. Anyway, so those scenes are filmed in Dubrovnik, Croatia.
Nice pronunciation.
And the first episode of Game of Thrones premiered on April 17th, 2011.
Really?
And the first book, A Game of Thrones, in the series of A Song of Ice and Fire, came out on August 6th of 1996. So, 6 days after my 4th birthday. This is its 20th anniversary. Just a Pokemon.
A lot of people don't know that Game of Thrones, like the book, was out a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, I would be willing to bet there's some people that don't even know there are Game of Thrones books.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
I had never heard of them until I heard about the show, and I didn't even hear about the show until like season 3, maybe. That was when I think that was when it started getting really, really popular.
Yeah.
I think that was also when I started getting on Twitter, and I was just more connected to
Everything.
pop culture.
Yeah.
So Bill Trinan, he works for Nintendo of America. His official job title is Senior Product Marketing Manager. I don't know what that means, but that's what he does. He's also, he speaks fluent Japanese. Like, he's really, really good at Japanese. And so he translates for Miyamoto, actually probably mostly just Miyamoto, whenever he comes to, E3 and stuff like that. So
That's really cool.
Yep. So, actually, we'll save that for the news segment. So, Sex Bomb is the band that Scott Pilgrim plays in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, both the graphic novel and the film adaptation of said graphic novel. And the other two members of the band are named Steven Stills. He is the vocalist and also plays guitar. And the drummer is named Kim Pine. And then from Pete's Dragon, oh, by the way, so the reason we're talking about this is because we're talking about the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive pop vinyls that are coming out. So another one they had was a 2-pack of Pete's Dragon. And so Elliot, the dragon of Pete's Dragon, he has the power of invisibility. It's not just camouflage, at least according to the Disney Wikia. So, take that with a little grain of salt. And then the Purple Pie Man of Strawberry Shortcake, he is in fact an antagonist.
Okay.
And then we actually forgot to talk about a few pop vinyls, which are the Conan O'Brien pop vinyls.
Did we mention them?
Mm-mm.
I thought we...
No, we didn't. So at last year's Comic-Con, they introduced this series, and they had 4, which were Batman, a pop of just Conan as himself, Conan's monster, so he looks like Frankenstein's monster, and Superman. Specifically the mold of Superman from Batman vs. Superman. Just kidding. The third one was Zombie Conan, so he looks like a walker from The Walking Dead. So this year they announced they're going to have 4 more Conan pops, which are Ghostbuster, so he is wearing the little Ghostbuster jumpsuit and the gun. And then the Joker, so he looks like the Joker from Suicide Squad with the grill and the tattoos and everything. Stormtrooper Conan, so he just looks like a stormtrooper with his helmet off, which I would really, really love to have, because I talked to several episodes ago, we talked about pops that we would really want to have, and the Stormtrooper Luke and Stormtrooper Han were ones that I would love to have, but they're worth like $400 something. I'd probably never get my hands on those. And this Conan one is essentially the same thing, just
with a different head,
not Star Wars canon.
Yeah.
So I would love to get that one, but the other Conan pops are worth, let's see, I'm looking at Pop Price Guide. The Batman Conan is worth $175.
Oh, God.
They are valued at these prices. These are not,
what they're, sold for.
Exactly. Yeah. The regular Conan one is valued at $120. The Conan's Monster is valued at $95. And Zombie Conan is also valued at $95. So I expect these new ones to go for around the same price. Anyway, so then the last Conan pop that they announced for this year, which I already spoiled, of course, is the Superman Conan. So, yeah, I think they look really cool.
I like them too. I think it's cool that he has his own, line of pops.
Yeah. Just like Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the other thing I want to talk about the pops was, so we were talking about the Malcolm Merlin pop vinyl. And I was saying I was disappointed that was going to be a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. But I totally forgot that last year there was a John Diggle exclusive pop vinyl.
Oh, really?
Where he is dressed up in Arrow in, I think, season 1. There's at least one, maybe more times where he dresses up as Arrow. I think so that Oliver Queen could appear like in person somewhere so that people wouldn't figure out that it's the same person.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Anyway, so the pop vinyl is just Diggle wearing the Arrow
Yeah,
outfit.
I've seen it before, yeah.
Yeah, so I have that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Like I said, I have the complete set, excluding Merlin. So anyway, so again, like so far that's the only pop of Diggle. Now, I expect him to get another one, especially because in season 4 he gets a new costume, quote unquote, which is just a helmet that looks like Magneto. But he gets a code name too.
What is it?
Spartan.
Spartan.
Yeah, I know, it's super lame.
I like it, actually.
No, it's super lame.
The helmet doesn't make him look like a Spartan, but
No, it does not. Anyway, so I expect him to get another pop, but I just think that it's weird that they have these characters who are really important to the show locked to these convention exclusives, which are hard to come by nature of being exclusives. So, but it is what it is. Okay, and then the last correction that I have is from Susie's email from last week, which we totally misread. Now, I think we gave good answers, but we did not answer her questions in the way that she asked. So I will reread that email now. Okay, so she says, if you suddenly had to save the world and you were given your own signature weapon or weapons if you're the dual wielding type, what weapon would it be and what would you name it? This could also include armor if you like. So our answers were pre-existing, fictional weapons. So I said Blades of Chaos and Red Lantern Ring, and you said
Spawn's hell outfit.
Yeah. But her question was like,
you have to make it up on the spot.
Yeah. So when I was younger, when I was reading the Redwall books and stuff, I always gravitated more towards battle axes than swords or bows and stuff like that. So I think I would probably just go with one giant killer axe, and I would name it. I don't know. Here, you answered the question, and then I'll try to think of a name.
So when I was about 4th or 5th grade, I forget what I was thinking about. I think I just finally started getting more into comics, and then I was still watching Power Rangers, of course. So, at some point during Power Rangers, they always get an upgrade and like a set of armor. I just thought that was something awesome because you have your own transformation sequences and everything. So I actually drew this out. I'll see if I can find the pictures, but I drew my own set of armor. And this is also the time when I found out when, the 4 elements could be used into like different media and whatnot. And I always gravitated towards fire because that's my favorite element.
Okay.
So I had this magical suit of armor that gave me the ability to control fire. And this is also because of Bionicle, because you remember when they go into the Protodermis to get the silver set? That also added to why I made this set of armor.
Sure.
Because of Tahu. And of course, because of Tahu, I had 2 swords.
Okay.
And it was a magical set of armor that let me control fire and gave me 2 swords. And yeah. Should I think of a name for the armor?
Well, I think the whole magical controlling fire thing might be a little beyond what she was saying, but I mean, whatever.
I'm sorry. Just my imagination goes,
I would love to have fire controlling armor.
Did you think of a name for your battle axe?
No, not really.
I'll help you think of one.
Okay.
So, like, what kind of battle axe we're talking about? Like, 2-headed and really long?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. What are names that people give to their weapons?
Okay, well, on Game of Thrones, there are several named weapons.
Yeah.
So there is Oathkeeper, Ice, Longclaw. Joffrey, what was Joffrey's sword's name? I don't remember.
Didn't he give...
Widowmaker, I think.
Yeah.
Widows, I think it was Widowmaker.
Something like that. And then his needle.
Oh, yeah. And then in the Aragon series, Aragon forges his own super sword, and he calls it, I'm going to probably butcher this pronunciation, he calls it Brisingr, which is the Elvish word for fire. And when he says that, it's a magical sword and it lights on fire.
Nice.
So
it's pretty badass.
Yeah. And then in the Redwall books, like, there were tons of weapons that had names, but I can't remember any of them.
I can't even either. I don't know. I guess you could call him Slappy. Slappy the Axe.
Sure, why not?
So when you finally, reach an old age, you give it to your son, and like, here, son, here's my old battle axe, Slappy. You won me many a great battles.
Did you come up with a name for yours?
For mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, George Foreman's grill.
Solid.
Thank you. I have like his face in like posed on my armor. Just like smiling.
You have to get his permission first.
I'm sure he'll be totally fine with that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Anyway, that's all of our corrections for this week. So I guess we'll go ahead and take our break.
Okay.
And you guys will listen to music, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about news and stuff. And a very special feature topic, which I'm excited about.
We talk about good news, everyone.
Are you ever going to stop making that
No.
joke?
Okay. He's actually one of my favorite animated characters ever.
Okay. Right on, right on. Okay, anyway, we'll be right back. Okay, we are back, and we've got news to talk about, because, that's what we do. So let's kick it off. We've got quite a bit of TV talk to do, so I guess we can start there.
Okay.
So it was announced this week that there's going to be a Battlefield TV series based on the video game franchise Battlefield.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't read any articles. I don't know anything other than there's going to be a TV series, but it's an interesting choice. So Battlefield is a first-person shooter series where you go around and shoot people. The newest game is called Battlefield 1, and it is going to be set during World War I. So I don't know if the show is going to be World War One based or, modern day or future or what. I mean, like I said, I didn't.
Is it going to be like first person perspective?
I really hope not.
And it's going to be, you can, sometimes the show's going to glitch and they're going to spawn and whatnot.
Yeah, so I don't know what to think about this. I mean, I think it could be pretty different than a lot of what's on the air now. I mean, there are tons of, cop drama shows and that's kind of in that vein, but if it's about World War One, that could be very, World War One, there's so much, historical stuff that they could go on or, what have you. Or even if it's not, I mean, it's going to be more, Battlefield is a very gritty series. It's, like Call of Duty, as much as fans of those franchises don't like those comparisons.
Yeah.
There are a lot of similarities. So, it could be a very dark TV show.
It could be. I actually don't know the storylines to the games because I know there's a campaign to it, but most of the time, most of the time the attention gets put towards multiplayer.
Yeah.
So the story really gets glossed over.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I guess we'll just see how that turns out. I'll probably check it out if it looks at least somewhat interesting.
Yeah.
So the second thing we have to talk about is Kid Flash in CW's series The Flash. There was character art or promo images, I guess, that were shown earlier this week. So Kid Flash, aka Wally West, well, not always, but in this incarnation, it's Wally West. So Wally West was introduced in season 2 of The Flash. That's all I'll say, because I know some of our listeners are currently watching The Flash or have not watched season 2 of The Flash, so I don't want to give any spoilers away. Wally West is a character. He comes in the show. And in the comic books, Wally West is Kid Flash. He's the Flash's sidekick. He has all the same powers as the Flash, just not quite as fast. Or should I say, Barry Allen as the Flash. He's also a main character in Young Justice.
And he was the Flash in Justice League.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was such. Those are actually two of my favorite scenes from the Justice League cartoon. Were from have to do with Wally West. Mm-hmm. So one of them was, I don't remember the context, but they all go back to the Batcave, and so they are like, okay, we need to figure something happened. Like they can't go to the Watchtower, and so they're like, okay, we need to figure this out and what's going on. And so they tell Flash to take off his mask, and Flash is like, well, what if I don't want you guys to know our secret identity, because we don't all know each other's secret identities. And so Batman points at Superman. He's like, Clark Kent, and then he points at, well, I guess it's just the three of them, right? Batman.
No, it's everybody.
Well, no, but they know John's name. They call him John. Yeah. And, Superwoman doesn't really have a secret identity. Or Wonder Woman. Yeah. And neither does Hawkgirl.
I mean, I know the scene we're talking about. It's not in the Batcave.
It's not?
No, they were in some kind of store or something. Because they were hiding from some guards.
Okay.
But I know the scene you're talking about.
Anyway, so let's just say it's just Batman, Superman, and Flash. He points at Superman, he's like, Clark Kent, points at Flash, Wally West, and then he points at himself, Bruce Wayne. And then he takes his mask off, and then Flash goes like, oh man, he takes his hood off, and then he's there. Anyway, and then there's another one where, I don't remember what happens, you might know, but Lex Luthor takes control of the Flash's mind.
I think Gorilla Grodd made some kind of machine or something, and he was trying to transfer his mind, and something happens, and instead of switching with the person he intended to, Lex and Wally West, their minds switch. Right,
so anyway, he's trying to figure out a way that he can use this to his advantage, and all of his plans are failing, and he's like, well, at least I can find out Flash's secret identity. So he takes the mask off, and he looks in the mirror, and then he stares for a second, and he's like, I have no idea who this is.
That's honestly one of my favorite episodes of Justice League, because also when Wally is in Lex Luthor, he tries his best to be Lex Luthor, but he doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I remember when he was in the bathroom trying to figure everything out, and he's leaving, and one of the supervillains goes, "Aren't you gonna wash your hands?" And Lex, aka Wally, is like, "No." Because I'm evil. Which the Supergirl, he has a surprised look on his face because that's just nasty. That's not even being evil. That's just gross.
Anyway, so back on topic. So Wally West, Kid Flash, is going to be in the show. And again, not going to give any spoilers away, but I'm really interested to see how that factors in to what's going to happen in season 3, because I can't say anything else because I don't want to give any spoilers. So just watch season 2 and then come back and then we'll talk about it.
So my to-do list.
Or we could get super speed and run forward in time and then we can just watch season 3.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
You got the particle separator?
Yeah, let me just go back to my garage and I'll get it for you. Okay, so next, another TV announcement. It was announced that there is going to be a new X-Men TV show on Fox.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep. So, without going too deep into legal things and whatnot, so Marvel owns and publishes the X-Men comics, but Fox has the film distribution rights to X-Men and Daredevil and a few other properties. So the X-Men movies are separate canon from the MCU. And I think, so in exchange for getting Spider-Man back, the new Spider-Man Homecoming is MCU, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Sony had the Spider-Man movie rights.
And
now,
it's still claimed that they still have the rights, but essentially Marvel has the rights now.
See, it's so confusing. Anyway, so, never mind. I was going to say something about X-Men and stuff, but... So, Fox owns the movie and, I guess, TV rights to the X-Men, and so there's going to be an X-Men TV show. I don't know if there are any details beyond that. I remember hearing a rumor a while ago that they were going to make a show about the Hellfire Club, which is these bad guys who are sort of like the Illuminati, kind of. They're just like a bunch of rich people who kind of do shady behind-the-scenes things to make bad things happen for their own advantage. They also have this devotion to the Dark Phoenix, and she becomes the lead of their organization for a while before she, blows up the universe and stuff. So I don't know if that's what it's going to be about, because it could be, but the headlines that I read was X-Men TV show, which makes it sound like it's going to be set at Xavier's school, and it's going to focus on some of the younger mutants that aren't, usually don't get a lot of
They're
stuff.
not in the field.
Yeah.
Man, this turns out to be like Glee. I'm going to be so mad.
I don't see that happening, but who knows? Who knows? So I'll definitely watch that. I mean, I love me some X-Men. So
Did you ever end up watching Apocalypse?
No, not yet. At this point, I'm just gonna wait for it.
I saw most of it.
How did you see most of it?
Online.
Oh, okay.
I actually liked it. I actually liked it.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna go and watch this movie and I'm gonna just plain out hate it. No, I actually liked it. I still think Days of Future Past was a little bit better.
Okay.
But this one was a pretty good sequel to it. The Apocalypse really did get canceled.
Thank you for spoiling the movie. Now I don't need to see it.
Okay. Really?
Okay, moving on. So there were 2 Supergirl season 2 casting announcements this week. The first is an actor named Ian Gomez, who's going to play a character named Snapper Carr. Now, Snapper Carr, according to Wikipedia, is a sort of minor character who was introduced like in the 60s, and later on he was given the power of teleportation. But according to Wikipedia, because again, I didn't read an article about this, but according to Wikipedia, the character Snapper Carr is going to be the new editor-in-chief at Catco Worldwide Media, whatever the business is called. So if you don't know, if you haven't watched Supergirl, Kara, aka Supergirl, works for a media corporation, much like her cousin, called Catco, which is owned by this lady named Cat Grant, and Cat is a very demanding character. And Yeah, but Snapper Carr apparently is going to be the new editor-in-chief, which I guess, I don't know, Kat's probably not editor-in-chief. She's probably like CEO or president or whatever, so she probably doesn't oversee, the writing and stuff like that. But yeah, so I don't know if he's going to have his teleportation powers or not. It doesn't sound like it to me, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, probably later on.
Maybe.
He'll get that.
Maybe.
That's usually how they do it in shows.
Just like with Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
Anyway,
is he still good on Supergirl?
Like, is his character a hero or is his storyline compelling?
Storyline.
Yeah, it's okay.
I mean, because I know he is a supporting character. He's not the main focus, but is he still good?
Yeah, he's pretty instrumental to the plot.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
Pretty faithful to the comic books.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Other than the name, but that's...
Are you talking about his alien name or his...
No, he's human.
His human, yeah.
But, whatever. So, also cast for season 2 is an actress named Floriana Lima, and she's going to be playing a character named Maggie Sawyer, who from the comic books, works for the Metropolis Special Investigations Unit, which just deals with like meta-human activity, I guess.
See, I knew we're gonna have one of those bureaucrats like coming into the mix and messing everything up.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's what she'll be doing in the show. I mean, that seems pretty likely to me. Mm-hmm. Even though Supergirl works with this organization, I don't remember what it's called, but they are an alien. They defend the world against aliens. Basically, they're like the Men in Black.
Power Rangers? Okay, never mind. Sorry.
No, they're more like the Men in Black.
Okay,
but except without the flash pen thing. But I feel like it would be weird for them to have that organization as well as a Metropolis PD organization, which essentially does a lot of the same thing, but who knows? So, yeah, that will be interesting, I guess. Actually, it might not be interesting. Who knows? Mm-hmm. I'm really not super hot on Supergirl. It's not terrible. Like, it's not offensively bad, but it's not
compelling,
fantastic either. Yeah, I mean, Flash is killing it, and all the other shows, like, so I'm caught up on Arrow, and Arrow is just
whatever.
Yeah. Gotham, I've watched season 1 of Gotham, and I think it's overrated. Like, I've heard a lot of people say they really, really like it, and I don't think it's, again, like Supergirl, I don't think it's not offensively bad. I'd say it's probably better than Supergirl, but I don't think it's fantastic either.
Okay, yeah.
And then, what else? Let's see. Constantine is done.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, yeah. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is really good. What's the other one? Lucifer. I haven't watched Lucifer. I don't even know if it got renewed for a second season.
Yeah, I don't think it did. There's Preacher, I know, but that's like a whole thing with AMC though.
Yeah, well, that's also not a comic book; it's a graphic novel.
If you want to be like that, sure, fine.
Yeah, I am that snobby, Brandon. What are you gonna do about it?
Leave the podcast.
And then, of course, there's Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Punisher, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, all of those MCU Netflix shows they got in the pipeline. But where were we going with this?
Just shows in general.
Yeah, Flash
is like you're saying that Flash is the best out of so far.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I like Flash and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are really close. Yeah, I don't know if I could pick one over the other. But yeah, okay. So then that's all of our TV news. So now we've got some Pokemon news.
Okay.
So you remember the magazine CoroCoro, which is Japanese published, and they frequently leak new Pokemon things. Mm-hmm. So there were 2 new Pokemon leaked this past week. So remember, these are Japanese translations. These are not going to be the official names, so keep that in mind. So the first one is called Kiteraguma, which is a normal fighting type, which is a new type combination. It looks like a panda bear, kinda. It's got like it's definitely some sort of bear. It's standing on its hind legs. It's got a stubby, round tail in the back, and then on its head, it's got like these kind of like cat ears, like a white headband.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
So it has 2 abilities. So the first one is called Klutz, which is which is an existing ability which prevents the Pokemon with that ability from using any items, which kind of has situational uses, but it's overall not particularly great. And then the second one is a new ability called, which they have translated as Fluffy, which according to Bulbapedia as of right now they don't have any information on what it could do. So I have no idea. There's, in the last gen, there was a Pokemon called Furfrou, which looks like a poodle. It had an ability called Fur Coat, which decreased the amount of damage from physical attacks by 50%. So that kind of sounds like that to me. I mean, that's just the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, it could work completely differently, but who knows? So then the second one is called Mimikyu. And it is a ghost fairy type. And so basically, it's kind of hard to describe. I would just suggest looking at a picture. But basically, it looks like this weird version of Pikachu.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so here is Bulbapedia's description. And I don't know where they're getting this information from, if it's from CoroCoro or just speculation. But what it says is, Mimikyu is a small Pokemon whose body is hidden under a veil. Only its beady black eyes are visible through the holes in the body of its disguise. Its true appearance is unknown, but the veil it wears resembles a Pikachu. The cloth itself is yellow with black tip ears. The face consists of black eyes, red cheeks, and a squiggly black mouth that appeared to be drawn with crayons. It also carries a small stick resembling a lightning bolt to create a tail for its costume. So, basically, it's a amorphous shaped Pokemon who either wants to hide its true appearance by looking like Pikachu, or maybe it like really admires Pikachu because it gets all the attention or something along those lines. But yeah, so it's a Pokemon that is hiding its true look, which is why it has this new ability called Disguise, which also as of yet we don't have any information on how that's going to work. So in the 5th generation of Pokemon, there was a new Pokemon introduced called Zoroark. You may know him. He was prominently featured in one of the movies. And actually, that's basically it. But he has an ability called Illusion, which makes it so that he will mimic when you send him out into battle, he will appear to the opposing trainer as the Pokemon in the 6th slot in your party. So that means that, for example, let's say I have a Torterra in my last slot. Torterra is the grass type starter from the 4th generation of Pokemon. It's a grass ground type Pokemon. So let's say that's in my 6th slot. I send out my Zoroark. It looks like a Torterra. Now, Torterra, based on its stats and typing and everything, so you would think it would have a certain move pool. And Torterra is also very slow, but Zoroark is very fast. So the opponent would be lured into this false sense of security in thinking it would try to do something else, like set up, like use a stat boosting move or something like that on the Torterra because it would outspeed it. But your Zoroark, theoretically might be faster and could attack first and do a lot of damage, and your opponent would be thrown off because it's a Zoroark. I don't think Disguise will work that way because Illusion already works the same way, but who knows? So, what do you think of these designs?
It's a new, interesting design. The first one, it's a pretty new, original idea. Mm-hmm. The second one, I like it even better because I don't know, it just makes you have to think more about where this is going. Yeah. And because I have honestly no idea what to make out of this thing.
You want to make out with it?
No, what? That's disgusting. Dude.
Yeah, so
I'm just glad it wasn't a Jinx we're talking about.
So the first one, the bear one, I'm pretty confident in guessing that's going to evolve.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention both of these Pokemon have new type combinations.
I don't think you said the types.
So normal fighting for the bear one and Ghost Fairy for the Mimikyu. I'm pretty sure I said that, but whatever.
It's good to double check. Yeah.
So, yeah, Mimikyu's design, it looks cute. I will say that, but also it seems kind of unoriginal. Like, I don't know. Like, I get that it's the whole, like, hiding its appearance and all that, but it's also basically looks like Pikachu on drugs. So, I don't know. But the internet's reaction actually is overall seemed to have been pretty positive, surprisingly. So, yeah.
You just had to go there, didn't you?
Well, I just call him like I see him. Anyway, and then the last bit of news that we have is that the legendary Pokemon Darkrai will be a new playable fighter in Pokkén Tournament soon. So this was revealed. There was a Japanese trailer that came out earlier this week where it showed off some of his moves, and he looks pretty cool. So Darkrai is a Dark-type Pokemon. He is the counterpart to Cresselia, which resides on Full Moon Island, whereas Darkrai resides on New Moon Island. Darkrai was the main, he was prominently featured in one of the Pokemon movies called, I don't know, something about Darkrai. Anyway, but Darkrai gives people nightmares and then feeds off of their energy, basically. But in the movie, he was a good guy. So Darkrai's whole shtick is that he's got a lot of sleep-inducing moves and sleep-causing, or moves that have to do with sleep. So
my type of Pokemon.
Well, no, he doesn't go to sleep. He puts other people to sleep.
Yeah, my type of Pokemon.
So he has a signature move called Dark Void, which is a dark-type move, 80% accurate, which is the second most accurate sleep-inducing move, I believe, after Spore, which is 100% accurate. And so Dark Void puts the Pokemon to sleep, but actually in a double battle, I don't know about triple battle. No, only 2 Pokemon at a time. So in a double battle or a triple battle, it'll put both opposing Pokemon to sleep if it hits both. And in a triple battle, it'll put 2 of the 3 opposing Pokemon to sleep, assuming it hits both Pokemon. And then it has an ability called Bad Dreams, which at the end of every turn deals, I believe, 1/8 of the opposing Pokemon's total health. It deals 1/8 damage to the opposing Pokemon. No. So Darkrai, I mean, if you look at him, he looks very ethereal, very spectral. In the games, he like floats around, but in the movie as well as in Pokkén, they showed off that he kind of sprouts legs. So he's not going to be floating. So that's cool, I guess. And yeah, so he looks like he's going to be fast and do lots of dark type shenanigans, as opposed to Weavile. So Weavile is the only other dark type Pokemon in Pokkén Tournament, but Weavile is a dual type Pokemon with Ice Dark, and his attacks focus a lot more on the ice element. So Darkrai's got that whole dark thing covered. Well, Shadow Mewtwo kind of does too, but whatever. So they didn't announce a release date for the DLC. They didn't announce any pricing or if there are going to be other Pokemon. A few weeks ago, we didn't talk about it because it was just speculation back then, but Darkrai there was a rumor that Darkrai was going to be coming to Pokkén as a new playable fighter, as well as Scizor, and Empoleon.
Oh, okay.
Both. So Scizor is a bug steel type Pokemon introduced in 2nd generation, and Empoleon is a water steel type introduced in the 4th generation. Also, I've stated on this show several times before, my favorite Pokemon. So that's cool. I don't know how he's going to fight. I talked about it before about how I would like to see him, but I also wasn't sure. I didn't think it was going to happen just because, I didn't see how he would be an interesting fighter. But Darkrai's coming, so I feel a lot more confident that both of those other 2 Pokemon will be in the game. I think Scizor could be really, really cool.
I think so too, because he's already an insect, so he's got that down for him. So you could do so much with his moves.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we'll see how that turns out. But that's all of our news. So now we're going to do a feature topic.
Okay.
And that's a new top 5 list.
That's right.
Which are nothing new to this show. So we've done our top 5 cartoons, top 5 favorite anime, and top 5 favorite underrated cartoons. And now we're going to do something sort of different, but also sort of similar, which is our top 5 favorite Disney movies. So caveat on this one is that it's only going to be Disney animation, which means no live action Disney and no Pixar movies, because we may or may not be doing those top 5s in the future. So let's go ahead. Brandon, you can go first.
I can go first?
Yeah.
So to start off, I am going to go with The Princess and the Frog.
Okay.
Now, this ranked as one of my favorites because it was a return to the hand-drawn animation of Disney, which they had stopped for a long while. This movie came out when I was a sophomore in high school. So before then, they had taken a long hiatus from doing hand-drawn animation. And getting to see The Princess and the Frog again, it just really made me fall back in love with the process of seeing drawing animation and the animation that I grew up with, watching all the classics of the golden age of Disney. And this has, I think, one of the greatest storylines that Disney produced, because it focuses on the main character Tiana, who is a young girl who lives in New Orleans, and she's trying to make a name for herself, and she's trying to one day she hopes to open up her own restaurant. Of course, she's working as a waitress in a restaurant, and she works very, very hard. She moves from job to job each day. So I relate to her in that aspect. And just like, because it returns back to the whole formula of Disney movies, there's, of course, a prince. And I like how they broke the mold with this one, because this prince, he's not like the prince that you usually see in the Disney movies when you think of classic Disney movies. He's pretty lazy, he's pretty self-centered, he's a little bit selfish. And that
just like you.
Thanks, Alex. And that just adds to a great foil to Tiana's character. His name was Prince Naveen. And seeing how the two of them grow and interact with each other gave great chemistry throughout the movie, which of course ultimately leads to how it ends. No spoilers. And of course, I don't
even remember how it ends.
And of course, like with any great, Disney movies, there has to be musical numbers, which they bring back in The Princess and the Frog, which are some of my favorite ones. And of course, they have to have supporting characters, such as, there are two of them. The two main ones are, his name is Louis, he's an alligator, and then there was the Firefly. I don't remember his name.
Lightning Bug. Oh.
He was from, you could tell he was a hillbilly swamp guy. I don't remember his name. Ray, his name is Ray. He's a Cajun Firefly. And the two of them great. They added to great aspects. And of course, going with a classic Disney movie, you need to have a fairy godmother. And she was a voodoo priestess. Her name was Mama Odie, and she was hilarious. And of course, with any great Disney movie, you need a great villain. And his name was Dr. Facilier. And when I saw the movie, he easily became one of my favorite Disney villains.
He's super creepy.
That's actually one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite ones, because his entire sequence of the transformation, he's the reason why Naveen becomes a frog, and he's the basis of most of the magical elements in the movie.
Yeah.
His whole big villain musical sequence. It was very, very well done. It was also pretty creepy and disturbing, because just some of the things that happens, and if you take into context, it's really, really, it just has a little dark undertone, which I always love in child works. I don't know why. That says a lot about my personality, but I honestly really loved it. And yeah, Princess and the Frog definitely deserves to be one of my tops.
Right on.
Yeah. So what about you?
So first one I'll talk about is So, I guess I should say that, like the previous list, we don't have these ranked in like a certain order.
Yeah.
I feel like for this one, I could probably make a better ranking than other ones, but just it doesn't
make it easy for us. Yeah.
So I guess the first one I'll talk about is actually one that's for both of us is Treasure Planet.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about Treasure Planet when we were talking about movies that deserve sequels.
Yeah.
So real quick plot summary. There's this main character's name is Jim Hawkins, and he's this angsty teen, and his
teenager of attitude.
Yeah. So this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler, but his dad left when he was a little kid, and that kind of messed him up when he was little. But when he was little, he grew up hearing the legend of Treasure Planet. So there was this pirate who he would rob these rich ships, and then he would vanish without a trace.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think his name was Nathaniel Flint.
Okay.
I don't know why I remember that, but I do.
And the legend says that he kept all of his treasure on this one planet called Treasure Planet. So he grew up knowing and loving this story. And at the beginning of the movie, this alien crashes outside of his house. His mom owns a bed and breakfast. And so this alien crashes outside. He helps him inside to, treat his wounds and whatever. And he gives him this little orb, which, he says, protect this from the cyborg. And then he dies. And so he has this map. He has this orb, which turns out to be a map to Treasure Planet. And so with his scientist friend, he gets a crew together to go to Treasure Planet. And yeah, that's bare bones story. That's all I'll say. I don't want to give it away. And yeah, so I love this movie because it's very Star Wars-esque. It's about a young kid.
It's essentially Treasure Island in space.
Yeah. So it's about a young kid who feels like he doesn't belong on his planet. He wants to go out and adventure, and through tragic but fantastical circumstances, he gets his wish and he goes out to live this life of adventure, much like Luke Skywalker. I mean, that's essentially the same thing that happens to him. And yeah, so there's just all this really cool technology. There's this cyborg character whose name is Mr. Silver, and he has a robotic arm and a robotic eye and a robotic leg. And ever since I've seen that movie, I've always wanted to have a robotic arm just like his, because it's super multifunctional. So he's the chef on the ship.
That one sequence when he makes the meal.
Yeah.
That's like one of the highlights of the movies.
Yeah. So he flawlessly transitions from having a knife so he can cut up vegetables, and having like a hand to like crack eggs, and like a little flamethrower thing to like heat up a skillet, and just all these crazy things that he can do with his arm that I wish I could do with my arms. So maybe one day.
I love the seamless combination of hand-drawn animation and computer animation. I thought they did a great job with that.
Actually, back to childhood. McDonald's, you know how they do their toy promotions with lots of different movies, especially Disney movies. But they actually gave away these mini CDs. They were full-size CDs, but they were these little mini games that you could play, that were demos for full games that you could buy. And I think there were 3 games, and I played all of them. And the one I remember the most, though, was that you were in like an asteroid field, and so you had a cannon, and you were supposed to shoot the asteroids to keep them from from hitting your ship. It was a lot of fun. There's some other ones, but that's the one I remember the most. But yeah, Treasure Planet, it's really, really good.
It really is, yeah. So the next one on my list, just to make things easy, it's another one that Alex and I share, which is
kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, I know, right? And of course, it's The Lion King.
Or as I know it better, El Rey de León. So if you guys don't know, I'm my father is Mexican, so I'm half Mexican. And so for whatever reason, I don't know why, but when we were little, we had his Spanish VHS of The Lion King. And so all of the dialogue was in Spanish, except for the songs. Those were still in English. And so I grew up watching that. I knew all of the lines in Spanish.
That's awesome.
It wasn't until like middle school that I ever watched it in English.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So where do we start with this movie? Because
I mean, The Lion King is a classic. For my list personally, this is the oldest movie that I have on the list, and it came out in 1994. So when I was tiny, and the thing I love the most about The Lion King is probably the music. Like, I think out of all of the Disney movies, I would say it has my favorite musical numbers.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, like I Just Can't Wait to Be King and Can You Feel the Love Tonight and
that's sweet.
the
Circle of Life.
Yeah, classic, man.
Yeah.
And the Scars one, the Be Prepared. Yeah.
And then they have the entire cast of characters is, just amazing.
Yeah, and there's really great voice actors like
James Earl Jones.
Yeah, and
Jeremy Irons.
Oh, really?
He's the voice of Scar. Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And who else? Nathan Lane plays Timon, and Ferris Bueller, what's his name?
Like the actor for Ferris Bueller?
Yeah.
Matthew
Broderick. Yeah, he is adult Simba.
That's right.
I think those are the main ones. But yeah, and then
the story is just awesome.
Yeah, story is awesome. And
it's
then
really
later on in high school, when I found out that it was actually Hamlet in lion form, my mind was blown. I just thought that was super awesome. But
and of course, the one scene that always hits you in the feels.
A lot of scenes hit me in the feels.
Okay, the one really bad scene.
I know what you're talking about.
But then also the scene at the very end when he comes
Do we really need to not say it?
I actually know people who have not seen The Lion King.
Wow.
You think it's bad that I haven't seen movies? People have not seen The Lion King.
That's unforgivable.
That is, I don't know what happened or why you were deprived in life for that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, what else can we really say about Lion King? I want to say it won the Oscar that year for Best Animated Picture. Do you want to go real quick?
Because it became so popular that they actually did. That's why we have Lion King on Broadway.
Okay, so it didn't win for Best Animated Picture, but it won for Best Original Score and Best Original Song. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? But Circle of Life and Hakuna Matata, another amazing song we forgot to say.
How could we do that?
They were also nominated. So
yeah.
But yeah, Elton John was the composer for Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
And Hans Zimmer, he
did the score.
Yeah, which is always a treat. In the new anime series they have called The Lion Guard.
Oh, did I? I remember hearing about that. But
Chris Traeger plays Simba.
Interesting. Oh, so should I do my third pick, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I guess to sum it up, bottom line, Lion King, one of the must-see movies you ever have to see in your life. You haven't lived if you haven't seen Lion King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my third choice, let's see, let's go with Wreck-It Ralph. So, I mean, Wreck-It Ralph is about video game characters, and that was all I needed to be sold on the movie, and I probably would have thought it was great. But I mean, the story is just super awesome. Like, you haven't seen it, right?
No, I haven't
okay,
seen
so there's a twist at the end that I totally didn't see coming. I thought that was amazing. There's a really great cast of characters. The famous video game character cameos that are in the game, like there's Bowser from Super Mario, Dr. Eggman from Sonic, Zangief from Street Fighter, just a lot of classic characters like that. Qbert is another one, just so I don't name all villains. They all are in there just to, not as main characters, but just to kind of show up and do their thing, just as little cameos. But yeah, Wreck-It Ralph it's a story about a guy who's down on his luck, who feels like nobody likes him, and he proves himself to be worthy of other people's love. Yeah, but I don't want to spoil it for Brandon, so that's all I'll say about it. It's just, it's awesome. And not just because of the video games. Like, it's actually a really good story.
No, I've actually heard, when he came out, it got tremendous praise because of that.
Yeah.
So everybody when I say I haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph, they're like, you have to see Wreck-It Ralph.
You do have to see Wreck-It Ralph. Go ahead.
Okay, so for my next pick, I am going to go with Mulan. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with this movie. And it's not just because I'm Asian, but I mean, that's tied into it as well. The story behind it is, if you haven't seen Mulan, just quick non-spoiler summary. She is a female, if you didn't get that.
Because I mean, it's pretty important.
Yeah, because it focuses on how she feels like she's misrepresented and she doesn't fit into society because she feels she's stuck in this one niche that she has to fulfill, and she doesn't want to fulfill that. Essentially, she's like Arya, if you think about it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So she's having trouble trying to fit into being a proper lady. And on the side, the Huns are invading China. And as a result,
no big deal.
Yeah, the Huns are coming, war and rampage and chaos, that's whatever, slaughter. And the emperor has to call, upon the army, and people are drafted into the army, and her father is drafted. And her father, either he's too old or he was wounded before.
I think it's both.
Yeah. Mulan fears that if he goes, he's going to die in battle. And so what she does is that she steals his armor and goes and she cuts her hair. She cuts her hair, one of the big sequences, and she takes the conscript, she takes the draft letter and she goes to be in the army, posing as her father's son that nobody knew about. But it was back in ancient China. There's no way to figure that out. So that's basically the basic, plot summary. And she's joined in her quest by Mushu, the dragon. And what's the cricket's name?
Cricket.
Just Cricket?
Yeah.
Yeah, by her lucky cricket. And her obedient horse.
Not a cow.
Yeah. So for a number of reasons, this movie is just great to me. As you know, I'm always a huge fan of artwork. The artwork in this movie is fantastic. It really pushed the scope of scale about how big and cinematic they wanted the film to be. There is awesome, of course, going back to the age of Disney movies, musical numbers.
Yeah.
Where do we begin? When can I see my reflection shine? Be a Man.
Yeah, that's my mom. So Mulan is, I'm pretty sure, my mom's favorite Disney movie. Mm-hmm. And every time she sees or hears that song, she'll cry. One time, I don't remember, we were in the mall, and I think, we were walking past, how, electronic stores, they'll, have TVs playing, and they were playing that song, and she started crying, right in the mall.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
At the ending, it always, brings me a bit to tears. The very end, when, I guess what happens, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. And it dealt with a lot of, a really good issue, because the fact that Mulan's she's a woman, she doesn't feel like she gets the same respect as a man, even though she knows she's fully capable of doing the same thing a man does. Especially in that whole sequence of,
the training sequence.
Yeah. She does even better than most of the men in the army.
Well, eventually.
I mean, they need to learn to be a man. Come on. And it just really brought a good issue about it, because I know for a lot of girls, this is a great movie for them, because it inspired them to show that, hey, you can be strong, you can be independent, you can do as much as a man, and it doesn't mean you're any less. What
are your feelings on Mulan 2?
I actually haven't seen it. I know most Disney movies, they always get a, direct-to-video sequel. And I have no problem with them. I watched them. They are no way better than the originals, but I still watch them and enjoy them. And when I heard about the premise, I thought, it would be an enjoyable family movie.
Yeah, I saw it a long time ago. I don't remember anything that happened really, but it was really unnecessary.
Yeah, I believe that. I also love, because, Tumblr has to ruin everything. So they talked about how Shen was attracted to Mulan in the army. And they're like, wow, Disney, straight up underhanded, told us that Shen was,
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny. It reminded me, because I just watched Futurama, when Leela joins the army and Zab Brannigan becomes attracted to her. And she's disguised as a man, so he gets all these confusing emotions.
It is weird.
But Mulan, definitely just an amazing story, an amazing movie, and Yeah, if I ever have kids there, they are going to watch Mulan.
So my next choice is Meet the Robinsons, which I feel is pretty underrated.
I feel like that too.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know about it. So real quick, non-spoilery plot summary. It's about this kid named Lewis who grows up in an orphanage. His mom dropped him off there when he was a tiny baby. And so Lewis is a genius inventor, even though he's only like 10 years old. And so he decides that he wants to find his, so he has all these interviews to like find adoptive parents. And so none of them, he never gets adopted, and he just gets really fed up with the, adoption system, whatever. And so he decides that he wants to find his mom because he thinks that if he can find her, he can convince her that she actually still wants him. And so he decides to make a machine that can stimulate your memories so that you can remember anything. Even though he was only a baby, he thinks he can see what she looks like, and then from there he would be able to find her. And so he makes this machine. It takes him a long time to figure out how to build it, but eventually he gets something together, and he presents it at his school science fair. But while he's there, this mysterious, tall, gangly man appears out of nowhere, and he interferes with the machine, causing it to explode, essentially causing havoc for the science fair. And so he runs off and decides that he's going to give up inventing, and he like trashes the machine. And when he does that, or right when he's about to give up on everything, this kid, well, actually he appears before that, but anyway, this kid appears, and he says that he works for this police force from the future, and he's trying to make sure that the time stream stays intact. And he says that his memory device is important to the future or whatever. So the kid gets Lewis into his time machine. He brings him back to the future, and things just go from there. We'll just say that. And the reason I love this movie so much is that, well, first of all, it looks amazing. Like the animation and everything just looks awesome. And their depiction of the future in the movie is just really like bizarre, but also like really funny and really creative and really cool. And when the kid brings Lewis back to the future, he meets the kid's family, which is of course the Robinson family, and they're the main characters of the movie other than Lewis. And yeah, that's I also love the movie because, well, no, I can't say that, it would be a spoiler. But yeah, I like time travel. I think it's really cool. It's also super confusing and really easy to mess up, but I feel like this one does a good job of it because they don't dwell too much on it. Well, yeah, they kind of do. Anyway, you just don't apply too much logic to it, and it's just really cool.
Enjoy it as the movie.
Yeah. That's all I have to say about Meet the Robinsons. I don't think I did a very good job of selling it, but just trust me, it's really good.
So my final one, this is my personal favorite. It's Aladdin. And I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it a couple of times on the show that Aladdin is one of my favorite movies of all times. Because if you don't know this, the concept of Aladdin, he's essentially a bum on the street. Yeah. He lives in the streets of Agrabah, yes. With his monkey Abu. And he just goes around stealing food for a living, escaping the city guards, singing along the way. And I don't know, whenever people always talk about that, there's a certain magic to Disney movies. I feel like this movie for me personally captures that magic because it just ties in everything that everybody loves about Disney movies. Like I've said before, the musical numbers, the characters, the villain, the animation works. It's just all incredible. So Aladdin is, like I said, he's a bum on the street. And while he's he's pretty much carefree going and easy to get along with. He does wish that there was more to his life than this. And on the side is Princess Jasmine. And she is at the age where she's to be married to a prince. So the Sultan is off looking for a husband for her, but she's very independent and she's very strong-willed. And she's not your classic, yeah, let's get married.
She don't need no man.
Yeah. So it's been a very big struggle to find her a husband. And what's the name of her tiger? Raja, yes. Raja usually scares away the suitor. And so Jasmine wants so badly to escape from this life of shelterness that she knows of. So one night she leaves the palace and she goes into the street. And she almost gets her hand chopped off. And from that she meets Aladdin, who saves her. And they finally, just the whole love story, lovey-dovey crap, that they go off on this whole adventure with each other. And of course, along the way, I try my best to avoid spoilers, but you really can't avoid the genie because the genie is such a big part of it.
No, he's like on the
Aladdin meets the genie, and the genie's he was voiced by Robin Williams. God bless his soul. Yeah, and the genie's one of the greatest characters in animation ever because that number sequence with your friend like me.
Yeah,
God, that was so amazing.
Best song in the movie.
See, for me, it's a tie between that one and I Can Show You the World. I actually really like that song. I know, kill me. So, the genie comes in and he's one of the most dynamic, most hilarious characters ever.
It's Robin Williams.
Yeah, I mean, and he really there was so much life that Robin Williams, he breathed into this character that there's no way that you cannot fall in love with this character.
I mean, he does impressions and he does just these
Easter eggs, references, just, oh my gosh. Man, I can't even, putting it into words does not even come close to saying how amazing this character is. And of course, with every great movie and character, you need a great villain, and that villain is Jafar, who he's also one of my top favorite villains as well.
He's a pretty good villain.
Yeah, him and his sidekick, his parrot Iago, great pairing. And yeah, the movie, oh my gosh, just everything about it is a masterpiece to me. So even now, when I see it, I still just get so hyped up about it, and I'll sing along to the songs. And when the lines come on that I know, I'll just say the lines, which is basically the entire movie. I'll just talk with the whole movie. And yeah, I'm a really big nerd. Sorry.
So actually, speaking of Disney sequels, there were 2 Aladdin sequels.
That's right. Yeah.
The second one was called.
It was the one with Jafar when he comes back.
Yeah, Return of Jafar,
yeah.
And then the third one was called.
I don't remember the third one.
Yeah, Aladdin and the King of Thieves. And there's also a animated cartoon on Disney Channel, and I mean they don't live up to the original Aladdin, but they're actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I've seen it again. It's been a long time, but I've seen both of the sequels, and I remember enjoying them. And the cartoon was kind of weird, but I remember liking it when I was younger. So anyway, my final choice is a more recent Disney movie, which is Big Hero 6. So again, much like Wreck-It Ralph, where I was enticed by the video game characters, I was drawn to this movie because of the superhero theme. So, have you seen Big Hero 6?
I have not.
All right.
Sorry.
So, as unspoilery as possible.
This just shows us that we've said so many spoilers on this show. It's so hard to censor ourselves.
Yeah. So, the main character of this movie is a kid named Hiro, Hiro, and he is a young genius inventor, much like Lewis. And so in the beginning of the movie, he doesn't use his genius powers for good. He actually takes part in these underground robot fighting tournaments to make money. So I won't say it. He just does it to make money. So his brother rescues him when he's about to almost get killed, basically. And he's like, you should be you're super smart, but you should be using your intelligence for better purposes. And so he takes him to this college where where his brother is doing research, and he's also a like engineer or whatever. And so Hero's brother is working with these other inventors who are also really smart, and they're all working on their own things and whatever. And so the Hero is fascinated by everything that's going on in the lab, and the lab is owned by his hero, basically. I don't remember what the guy's name is. But so they convince him to start working, to like enter this science fair competition, just like Lewis. And so he starts working on these nanobot things. Well, not really nanobots. They're not microscopic like a nanobot is, but they're essentially, they work in a lot of the same ways. They're small little robots. And yeah, so he does his thing, and he builds it, he brings it to the science fair, and then something tragic happens and he gets all depressed. But then there's Baymax, who is there to comfort him, basically. And then he builds Baymax some armor, and things go from there. And he makes this superhero team. And yeah, that's all I needed to know about the movie, was that there was superhero teams in a Disney movie. Is actually, I don't know exactly the connection, like how involved they were, but Marvel was involved in the production of this movie. Yeah. I don't know if it was the writing or like they borrowed some of the characters from the comics or what. I really don't know, but Marvel's name is attached to this property. So, I mean, I think that in itself is a pretty good testament to the story that comes from it. Not to say the movie isn't without flaws, because, Marvel movies aren't perfect either, but I really like everything, and it's a really touching story about a kid who's dealing with loss and how he deals with it, and yeah, it's good stuff. So, those are our top fives, but I have a few honorable mentions that I wanted to throw out there, and so I'll say mine, and then I feel like mine will probably cover most of yours, but if you have any more, you can go ahead and say them. So, first one I have is Hercules.
Okay, yeah.
So, Hercules is, of course, based on the mythological character Hercules, and I've always been fascinated by Greek mythology, and honestly, like couldn't tell you if it's because of the movie Hercules or what, because I mean the movie came out, when I was young in my formative years, and so I don't know what the relationship is, but there's this amalgamation of like every mythological story all rolled into one, and James Woods voices Hades, and he just does an awesome job, and yeah, and there's really good music, and yeah, it's really
great
really
story
good.
behind. Yeah, the only thing that's missing is Kratos.
Maybe in the sequel.
Maybe.
So the next one I have is Frozen. Surprisingly,
I have not seen it.
Seriously?
I've never seen Frozen.
All right, whatever. Anyway, the only reason that I feel the need to mention this is because it's about a Disney princess, which is, for better or for worse, I feel like Disney has this stigma of focusing on princesses, just because, their first huge hits were all about Disney princesses, or about princesses. But anyway, so it's about a Disney princess with superpowers. And despite all other flaws that the movie has, of which I think there are many, Elsa is still my favorite Disney princess, or queen, whatever, because she has superpowers. So, and I will admit, music's pretty good. So
I have seen the video to Let It Go.
Who hasn't seen that video?
On more than one occasion, I've sang along to the video. So it was really bad singing, but I sang along.
So then the next one I have is Atlantis.
Yeah, definitely underrated.
Yeah, Atlantis is awesome just because they have all this super cool technology with their thing, and the story's fine, but yeah, I really like just the visual spectacle.
Yeah, it's a great, yeah. And of course, the cast was all funny. My favorite one was Mole. My favorite sequence was near the end when the Spoilers, okay? Spoilers. When the Stone Guardians come up to save Atlantis. And then they just like clap and they form the shield.
Yeah.
My favorite scene.
Yeah. There was a sequel to this movie as well. I didn't see it.
I didn't either.
But I don't, whatever. Anyway, and then Lilo and Stitch.
Of course.
Which, again, I mean...
I really wanted to put this one on there. It was just...
Aliens, space, on Earth. What else do you really need? Stitch is an awesome character.
I love like the campaign promos that they did with him. Like he would like invade into other Disney movies.
I totally forgot about that.
And he just like created chaos and he destroyed the scene. And that was just hilarious. Oh man!
But
yes, and the whole like family theme was really touching.
Oh, yeah,
I love that so much. Yeah.
And then of course there was a sequel to this movie as well called Stitch the Movie.
Well, which one are we talking about?
What do you mean?
There are two of them. One which deals with the other 625 experiments.
That was the cartoon.
There's actually a movie about that.
There were two movies?
Yeah, this one, the movie that I'm talking about, it introduced when Jumba, he made 625 other experiments besides Stitch.
Huh.
And there was another movie which was a prequel technically. That talked about Stitch. Yeah, it would talk about how he had some kind of defection within him, and it caused him to go haywire.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah. Apparently, he dies in that movie at some point.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
I haven't seen it. But I love the cartoon though.
Yeah.
The cartoon was hilarious.
Yeah, even though they never got all the rest of it.
Oh, they never did?
No, I don't think so.
That sucks.
Anyway, and then the next one I have is The Little Mermaid.
Oh, okay.
Now, I needed to mention this one because my sister, Catherine, shout out to Catherine, when she was younger, she would watch this movie every single day. So I've seen this movie like a zillion times. So, I mean, the music's great. The story's pretty good.
Under the Sea.
Yeah. Obviously not my favorite because it didn't make my top 5, but I had to throw it out there because I've just seen it so many times. And then the last one I will mention is a Goofy movie and an extremely Goofy movie.
I've seen both of them.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, they're pretty dumb.
Yeah.
They're goofy, so they're
But
dumb,
Goofy, I love Goofy.
Yeah.
Like literally, I remember watching the movies and just laughing whenever Goofy was on it. And like, I love the noise he makes.
His laugh.
Yeah. We're like, oh, hoo, hoo. Something bad happened.
I'm not going to try that. Oh, that one. Yeah. Okay. Those are all the ones I had. Did you have any more?
No, that's pretty much it.
Oh, wait. I forgot one. Wait, I didn't say this one, right?
Which one?
Did I write this down? No, I didn't. Tarzan.
Oh, dude, how did I forget about that one? I love Tarzan so much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to talk about it too much because we talked about it a lot when we talked about The Legend of Tarzan.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Tarzan it's really good. Okay, well, those are our favorite Disney movies. If you want to tell us your favorite Disney movies, you can email us, abcpodcast92@gmail.com. I would be really interested to hear what everyone else's are. We left out some really big ones. Like, for example, I know a lot of people really love Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Or The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I've never seen it personally.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I don't think I've ever seen the whole thing.
And there's like, 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah. Cinderella, Snow White, just a lot of really big ones we didn't leave out, probably because we're guys. But other ones that I just haven't seen, like Peter Pan. I don't think I've ever seen all the way through.
I've never seen Peter Pan.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think we had a pretty solid list.
Me too.
But of course, I would say that because they were my favorite ones. Anyway, so now we will move on. We have one email, and that is from Susie. And she says, "Hey guys, so I go and listen to episode 17, and you're talking about the kanji, and likely hiragana and katakana, since this is Japanese, on the subscription box. If you want someone to translate, you could always send me pictures. Just saying." So I will take her up on that offer. So, as requested, some feedback. Music is good, and I do read the description, so if you want to make descriptions for videos, go for it. Don't sweat it if it's too much trouble, though. Also, audio has gotten better since the beginning, so now it's easier to hear you guys. Good job. Well, that is good to know.
That's a really big plus.
Says, so, keeping in mind my question from last time with your chosen weapons, I have a Kevin segment idea. Oh, no.
Alex versus Brain.
I guess it'd be decided mainly by which weapons and armor were stronger and who uses their chosen equipment best, but I suppose I should just let you guys fight it out. And then she gave a TLDR, which, of course, I love to include in lots of things. But P.S. episode 16 was really fun to listen to. So thank you for all that feedback, Suzy. That's always really good to, to know.
Awesome. Just awesome.
But we actually don't have an email question, which is kind of sad. But
I mean, we can always go back to Kenzie's 7 emails.
We should have spread those out, probably.
Yeah.
But whatever, too late now. All right, so again, you can always email us. We will take questions, comments, concerns, fanfic fights, suggestions. You can tell us your top 5s for, either Disney or previous top 5s we've done. Send us ideas for future top 5s. I mean, I've got a bunch, in stock, but I could always use more because, we're going to run out eventually.
Seeing how long this podcast goes. We'll see.
So that email address is abcpodcast92@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you, so please send us an email. So now we can go ahead and move into our fanfic fights segment.
Okay.
And this week we're going to have Ultron versus Brainiac.
Okay. How are we going to do this? Do you want to pick or?
Let's rock, paper, scissors.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Damn. Who do you pick?
I'm trying to figure out which one you want to pick. But I think I'm going to go with Ultron.
Damn you! Ah! All right. Who goes first? I guess you, because you won.
Okay, me go first. So Ultron is an AI artificial intelligence enabled robot created by Hank Pym, not Tony Stark. Darn you, MCU, for not introducing Ant-Man earlier. Anyway, so Ultron is a robot, and he was originally designed as a protection for mankind from, various evil threats that the Avengers face all the time. But Ultron decided that the best way to protect that, Ultron realized that humanity's greatest danger was from itself. And so he rationalized that the best way to protect humanity was to destroy it, because if humanity no longer exists, humanity cannot harm itself, which, in a really twisted way kind of makes sense. But anyway, so Ultron is a robot, so he feels no pain. He can rebuild himself multiple times, which he does with his Ultron drones. But the main Ultron Prime, is bigger, stronger, deadlier, and all around more killer. So Ultron can fly. Ultron can shoot lasers. He can control technology at his whim and access the internet to, destroy things and get missile codes and all that fun stuff. And yeah, in Age of Ultron, he also has this weird gravity power that he only uses once.
What are you talking about?
It's on the truck scene when they're carrying the bed, and he does the thing, and it flips up the ground.
He uses it with Tony too.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he says, Raptor, I wanted to tell you that Raptor said my evil plan, and then he pulls Tony towards him and shoots him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he uses it a bunch of times actually during that fight sequence when he's throwing stuff at Tony.
I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then he also
he also used it in the fight against Thor too, when he brought that huge pillar and he hits Thor in the face.
Okay, I believe you. I guess I just don't remember fight scenes there. Whatever. Anyway, and then he also cuts off Claw's arm with his superheated hand. So
I thought that was a really cool scene.
Yeah. Whatever.
Wait, are you doing the movie one or the comic one?
I'm mostly going off of
the movie? Or the one from
Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so Ultron's biggest strength, I would say, is his legion of Ultron bots. He just in terms of numbers, he can overwhelm many foes. And yeah, he's one of the Avengers' most fearsome opponents.
Okay, so this fight is just gonna break my heart because Ultron's one of my favorite villains, and I've actually trained for this segment. Like, if we ever had Ultron versus Brainiac, I always train for like how I was gonna, support Ultron and gonna beat the crap out of Alex. But
you didn't count on losing the rock paper scissors.
Shut the hell up. So Brainiac is an extraterrestrial android or alien, depending on which variation that he's presented in the media. Most of the time, it's android. So his purpose is to find him sorry, I'm really tired. His purpose in life is to find and absorb all information and knowledge in the galaxy. All galaxies. So, in his early years, what he used to do, and I think he still does it now, he would find cities or planets worth of that knowledge, and he would shrink them and add them to his collection so that he could forever harness that knowledge. So Brainiac, on top of that, it just shows you that Brainiac is an incredibly ambitious villain or character. He has a 12th level intellect, which means that he has advanced knowledge beyond most comprehension with physics, mathematics, formulas, biology, technology, and basically anything else. Just to show you like the difference of intelligence, humanity has a level 6 intellect, and most other like alien planets have around 7 or 8. So Brainiac is far ahead of that. Depending on his variation and what type of body he inhabits, he has extreme durability, strength, of course intelligence, if I didn't make that clear enough, energy, flight. He also has this flying base that he's connected to, and it basically houses a legion of drones, and he can connect to it and use it as his own, head of base. So his neural interface is connected to the planet, so it gives him a greater connection to how he wants to use that base. He's been noted as one of the greatest villains in the Justice League. Even Darkseid has admitted that he considers Brainiac to be one of the greatest threats in the galaxies. And in the Justice League Justice League cartoon, not yet. In the cartoon, there's actually a segment when Brainiac, he attacks the Justice League and he temporarily disables much of Darkseid's resources, so he needs to come to the Justice League to help, he needs to get the Justice League's help to defeat Brainiac. So that just goes to show you that how much of a deadly force Brainiac is. And I'm pretty sure he could defeat Ultron that way.
Well, that's it for our fanfic fights. A little subdued, but yeah. Honestly, I don't know a whole lot about either character. I think because there's so much to know about Ultron and Brainiac. They're just like, they've been peppered through so many stories and come back so many times, so many different incarnations. It's kind of hard to keep it all together. So anyway.
See, if I had Ultron, this would not even be a debate. It would just be a monologue.
Well, I'm glad I won then. Anyway, but you can let us know who you thought won our fanfic fights. Again, email is abcpodcast92@gmail.com. So that's it for our show this week. But before we get out of here, got a couple things we need to remind you of. First and most important is that we are going to be talking about Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness on our show next week. So make sure you watch both movies and email your thoughts so that we can talk about them. That means you, Brandon. You have to watch the movies.
I've seen the first one.
No, you need to watch them
I've seen
again.
the first one. I've seen most of the second one. Give me a break, all right?
We need to watch them again.
I'll get down to that.
Anyway, so I've already said the email 3 times, so I don't want to annoy you guys by saying it again.
You might as well say it again.
abcpodcast92@gmail.com. Other things, social media, you can follow me on Twitter at AtariAlex. You can find Brandon's Twitter handle and links to our YouTube page and iTunes page in my bio as well. You can also follow me on Instagram and Snapchat, also at AtariAlex. And leave us an iTunes review. We love to get those. I honestly haven't checked for iTunes reviews in a while, so I don't know if we've gotten any. But history tells me that it seems unlikely.
That's really sad.
Well, whatever. So yeah, leave us an iTunes review, subscribe to us on YouTube, and just spread the word about the podcast because I think it's interesting. If you enjoy it, just tell someone you know who you think would enjoy it too. So, Brandon, you have anything else you want to add?
I'm level 10 on Pokemon Go.
Oh, we totally forgot to talk about Go. Oh, man. Sorry, I forgot to write it down. You want to talk about Pokemon Go?
We can do it real quick.
Okay.
Right before we leave.
So, last week I'd only played for like 30 minutes. And since then, I've really become obsessed. I don't even know why it's so much fun.
I don't know either. I guess the fact that you can go outside and you have to like feel like you're an actual Pokemon trainer and you're trying to catch your Pokemon.
Yeah. But yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. It's like when I'm at work, I'm like, oh man, I wish it wasn't here right now. I wish I could just go walk around downtown and catch some Pokemon, but stuck in my stupid day job.
I know, right? Having to be an adult. What's your strongest Pokemon?
I caught a Pinsir yesterday with a CP of like 330 something.
Nice, real nice. I think it's my Pidgeot. It's like 370.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my complaints about the game is that people who are able to dedicate more time or really just live in better geographic locations have such an advantage over other people.
Yeah.
Like they're pulling away, and there are people who have Pokemon with like 1,500, 2,000 CP that have taken over gyms that I will, if I'm ever able to beat them, it's going to be like months from now. And by the time I get my CP up, my Pokemon with CP up that high, like they'll probably have like 10,000. And so that's kind of discouraging, but. And
I don't know where some of these people are getting these Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because I saw somebody in a gym nearby where I live. They have an Aerodactyl.
Yeah. So I've hatched 2 eggs so far. They were both 10-kilometer eggs, and one of them was an Aerodactyl, with the other one was a Jinx.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I have a 10-kilometer egg right now, and I'm really scared to open it.
But yeah, Pokemon Go, I think it's fun.
I do too.
Not that it doesn't have its flaws.
Like the server crashing.
That too. But yeah, lots of fun.
Yeah.
So that's it for our show this week. I think that's everything we have to talk about.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
We can save everything else for next week. But in the meantime, thank you all for listening, and we will catch you all next week.
Bye.